Hello and welcome to episode number 256, where I talk about the role the doshas of Vata, Pitta and Kapha play in our menstrual cycle. I go into detail on how a dosha aggravation can affect the Gunas and how it may manifest during our cycle and how to pacify these aggravations using the Ayurvedic principle of like increases like and opposites pacify. So please stay tuned. Welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm your host, Colette, and I hope to educate and empower you to take charge of your health and well-being, preventing disease in the body and mind so that you can thrive in life. I will be sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, which is the ancient healing tradition from India. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend listening to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. And if you like the content, please be sure to subscribe or follow the podcast so the new episodes will automatically download for you. Also, you may want to check out my private Elements community, which is away from social media. It's a safe space for like-minded people to come together, to connect, to share, to support each other, and to continue the conversation from the podcast episodes. Check out the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and just click on the community tab. And I hope to connect with you there. Thanks for listening. And now here's a new episode. This episode is sponsored by Kerala Ayurveda. Do you wish to learn more about the doshas and aligning with nature's rhythms? Kerala Academy welcomes you to build a foundation in the traditional Vedic sciences for personal and professional development. Training programs start every fall and spring for all levels of learning, and you can study online or in person. To learn more, visit keralaayurveda.us/courses, and for $100 off tuition, use the code ELEMENTS100 when you join a beginner training. Please check out the show notes for all the details. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. It's me, Colette, today for a solo episode, and I want to talk about what Ayurveda teaches us about the menstrual cycle, and in particular the role of the doshas of Vata, Pitta and Kapha in the cycle, what happens when those doshas become aggravated, and how we can pacify them. So starting with the cycle itself, the Vata phase is the start of our cycle. The Vata dosha is responsible for action, movement, and transportation in the body. And in the menstrual cycle, it's responsible for the shedding of the uterine lining and the downward movement of the lining out of the body. So it's responsible for the bleeding phase, and that's during the start of our cycle. The Kapha phase is from the end of the bleeding phase until ovulation. Now, Kapha, as we know, is the energy of construction, lubrication, and nourishment in the body. And in the menstrual cycle, this is the building phase, building back up the mucous membrane lining of the uterus. Then the final phase is the Pitta phase, and this is from ovulation until the cycle or bleeding phase begins. Pitta is the energy of transformation and conversion in the body. And in the menstrual cycle, it's responsible for preparing the body for conception with the building of the blood tissue layer in the uterus. Now, when the doshas are imbalanced, the menstrual cycle will be regular and free of any physical or emotional discomfort. PMS or premenstrual symptoms are signs of aggravation. So too are any other symptoms throughout our cycle. So let's take a deeper look at the imbalances which may occur during our cycle due to an aggravation of the doshas. Let's start with a Vata aggravation. If Vata is aggravated, you will see signs of aggravation, in particular during the Vata stage of the cycle, which is the bleeding phase. The Vata qualities of dry, light, cold, subtle, rough, and mobile will be affected, and they may aggravate in the following ways. So let's start with the dry and rough qualities. If there is a Vata aggravation, it could lead to dry skin, dry tissues, and dry bowels, dry bowel movements, and maybe even constipation. The light and subtle qualities, if aggravated, may show up in the fact that there's less of a flow during the first phase of the cycle, during this Vata phase, or the flow may become scanty, or it may cease altogether. If the cold quality is aggravated, it can cause a constriction of the blood vessels, again leading to a lack of flow, or you may notice that there's a mix of old blood and new blood during your cycle. You also may feel more stiffness due to that constriction in the body. If the mobile quality is aggravated, there may be moving or migrating pain around the body. It may be in bloating or cramping, pains and aches down the thighs, or achy lower back in the lower lumbar spine where the seat of Vata is in the body, headaches, moving pain in the head. You may also experience an overactive nervous system, which can lead to the mind going to the future, creating more fear, worry, anxiety. And this, of course, can cause sleep problems. You may also experience insomnia during this time. Now, of course, you may not experience all of these symptoms, but when the Vata dosha is aggravated, it can also affect the Pitta and Kapha doshas. And this is where you may need professional guidance if you find that maybe 2 or 3 of the doshas are aggravated. However, today I want to help you understand simple practices that you can bring in to help pacify the Vata dosha during your cycle. And we'll focus on the Ayurvedic healing principle of like increases like and opposites pacify, meaning that we will bring in the opposite quality to the one that is aggravated in order to pacify Vata. So here are some general suggestions. Let's start with the dry guna, or dry quality. If you're noticing a lot of dryness in the body, like I said earlier, dry skin, dry stools, maybe constipation, well, we want to bring in the opposite quality of moist. So hydration is extremely important to nourish the tissues, making sure you're staying well hydrated to nourish the tissues, aid digestion and elimination, and of course, transportation in the body. Lubricating the tissues with good fats in your diet. Ayurveda does not recommend Abhyanga oil massage during the bleeding phase, as your body's already going through its own cleanse, and Abhyanga can aid in the elimination of toxins. So it may be very depleting for your body to do Abhyanga during the bleeding phase. And the Agni, or the digestive fire, may also be diminished during this stage, and a full body oil massage could result in further stagnation or inconsistency or irregularity in the digestive fire. So performing Abhyanga throughout the rest of your cycle to nourish and lubricate the tissues is great, but Ayurveda does recommend that you stop it during the bleeding phase. So let's look at the guna now, or quality of light. So as I said earlier, the light guna may cause the flow to become even lighter, scanty, or maybe cease altogether. And so we want to bring in the opposite quality of heavy to offset that light and airy quality of Vata. So we want warm grounding meals, like root vegetables, stews, soups. Meat can be helpful for grounding Vata during this stage. Of course, we want to stay away from foods that are considered light. So that will be things like rice cakes, popcorn, crackers, salads, things like that. They have the light quality. They're going to aggravate that light quality even more. So going towards more heavy grounding foods. Then the next quality to look at is cold. Of course, cold causes constriction, so we want to bring in warmth. Drinking warm liquids like hot water to aid digestion, which can be compromised during the Vata phase of the cycle. Eating warm foods with warming digestive spices to aid digestion. Spices like ginger, black pepper, cinnamon, cumin, mustard seeds, asafoetida, ajwain, just to name a few. Then moving on to the subtle quality. So we want to bring in the opposite of that. So the subtle quality can cause that lightness, that lack of flow, the scanty flow during the cycle, but we want to bring in the opposite, which again is grounding. So choosing slow grounding practices like yin or restorative yoga. Of course, during the Vata phase or the bleeding phase of your cycle, you never want to do any inversions. It's bringing the energy the opposite way. We want the energy going downward. Other mindfulness practices, meditation, pranayama, like Nadi Shodhana or alternate nostril breathing are really great for balancing Vata. And avoiding too much outward energy, conserving your energy during this phase and spending time in retreat at home during this phase. No excessive exercise or try to avoid too much socializing is ideal during this phase of the cycle. The next quality is rough. So again, rough can cause a lot of dryness. We want to bring in the opposite, which is smooth. So eating comforting foods that are mushy in texture, again, with lots of good fats, choosing sweet, sour, and salty taste to encourage the retention of water in the body. The sweet, sour, and salty tastes are all very pacifying for the Vata dosha. The mobile quality, as I said, can cause an overactive nervous system, and it can also cause migrating pain throughout the body. So we want to bring in the opposite quality, which is static. As I mentioned a moment ago, the bleeding phase should be a calm and introspective time during the month. The nervous system can become activated when Vata is aggravated. You also want to avoid stimulants like caffeine and stimulating activities. Even screens before bed can be too much during this phase for the nervous system. Taking time to calm the nervous system before bed by avoiding technology. And even though it's not advised to do a full Abhyanga oil massage during the bleeding phase, you could do a foot massage at night before bed to help calm the nervous system, and that would be wonderful. Okay, so that's some suggestions for Vata during the Vata phase, which is the bleeding phase, the start of the cycle. Now moving on to the Kapha phase of the cycle, and to remind you, the Kapha phase is from the end of the bleeding phase until ovulation. So when Kapha is aggravated, you may experience some of the following aggravations in the qualities of Kapha. So the qualities of Kapha are moist, cold, heavy, static, soft, and liquid. So the moist quality, there's too much of that moist quality due to a Kapha aggravation. It can cause water retention, puffiness, and swelling. The cold quality, again, due to a Kapha aggravation, can result in a cooler body temperature and stagnation in the body. The heavy quality can result in a heavier flow during the bleed phase, can create lethargy, a lack of motivation, and inertia, having no get up and go, really feeling like you're pulling yourself physically and mentally through mud. The static quality of aggravated can cause sluggishness in the body. There may be a stickiness to the bowel movements. It can also cause itching due to stagnation and really wanting just to hibernate, withdrawing socially, and the lack of a desire to move. You may also find yourself oversleeping during this phase. The soft quality, you may be feeling more emotional, and this can lead, of course, to more emotional eating, craving the sweet taste, which has a tendency to build the tissues, and that can result in excess body weight. And the liquid quality, if aggravated, again can cause water retention, swelling, and breast tenderness as well. So let's look at the opposite qualities to help pacify Kapha during this phase of the cycle. Therefore, if the moist quality is aggravated, if you're noticing a lot of water retention, puffiness, and swelling, we want to bring in more dryness. Dry foods, so less fats, less liquids. And you want to bring in more of the astringent taste, which is drying. And you can find the astringent taste in turmeric, beans, apples, pomegranate. It's basically the taste that if you put something into your mouth, like a raw banana, and it draws all the moisture from your mouth, that's that astringent feeling. Also, a dry environment is good. Of course, you can't control what climate you're living in, but for Kapha during this phase of the cycle, even a sauna, because the heat and the dryness is very beneficial. Moving on to the next quality, which may become aggravated, is the cold quality. And we talked about how that could mean a cooler body temperature and stagnation in the body. And so we want to bring in heat, the hot quality. And like I said, the sauna is perfect for kapha during this phase. That dry heat is ideal for bringing in the opposite qualities to the moist and cold. Also warm foods and warming spices to increase the digestive fire and to reduce sluggishness. Increasing the pungent taste with spices and foods. And this would mean spices and foods that have intense flavors, which will increase the heat in the body. Doing warm yoga and heat increasing pranayama. So a breath work like Brastrika or bellows breath, where you're energizing the body and increasing heat. The heavy quality, when aggravated, as I mentioned earlier, can show up in a heavier flow during the bleed phase, also in lethargy, lack of motivation, and inertia. So we want to bring in the light quality to pacify that. So you want to have light, easy, digestible foods. Your digestion may be sluggish during this time, so the more you can avoid the heavy, stodgy comfort foods, the better it will be for your digestive system. So going for foods that are cooked, warm, and have digestive spices, like soups, is a great food during this time, or khichdi. The next quality is the static quality. And I mentioned how that can cause a sluggishness, stickiness in the bowel movements, itching due to stagnation in the body, and wanting to withdraw socially, maybe sleeping a lot more. So we want to bring in the mobile quality, which is the opposite of static. More movement during your day, especially during the morning kapha time. Getting up early and being active between 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., really stimulating that kapha energy and avoiding that groggy, lethargic morning feeling. Avoiding napping during the day is really important, particularly for kapha. Also stimulating circulation of the blood and the lymph in the body, so it gets rid of that itchiness as well due to stagnation. And you really want to avoid sitting for long periods of time. The next quality is that soft quality we talked about. When that's aggravated, you could be feeling a lot more emotional eating, craving the sweet taste, maybe noticing weight gain. And so we want to bring in the hard quality. And this could look like adding fiber to the diet, some roughage to move things along through the digestive system and to aid in elimination. So roughage in the form of vegetables and fruits that are cooked, of course, can really help to alleviate that sluggishness in the system. The liquid quality, when aggravated, we talked about how it can cause water retention, swelling, and breast tenderness. So we want to bring more of the dense. Now, kapha is one of the doshas who needs less water than the other two dosha types of Vata and Pitta. Of course, you need to hydrate, but you don't need to be forcing yourself to drink water. You need a moderate amount of water, like 4 to 6 glasses per day, but you don't need to be gulping water. So we want to bring in the opposite quality of liquid, which is dense. So you want to go more towards drier foods or foods that are less soupy consistency and more of a denser consistency. So if you're making things like khichdi, that you have less liquid, normally the khichdi recipe for kapha has less liquid portion in it, or if you're making soups that they're more substantial, blending them and maybe making them less watery, which is usually what kapha prefers. But sipping on hot water throughout the day will help the sluggish digestion. But like I said, never gulping water, never chugging water down, and definitely avoiding any cold foods, raw foods, cold, and definitely no ice drinks. Okay, so that's kapha. And now we're going to move on to the pitta phase of this cycle. And just to remind you, the pitta phase is from ovulation until the cycle or bleeding phase begins. And when pitta is aggravated, you may experience some of the following aggravations in the qualities of pitta. So the qualities of pitta are oiliness, sharp, hot, light, acidic, mobile, and liquid. So let's break these down and look at how that aggravation may manifest in each of these qualities. So the oily quality may show up in increased oiliness of the skin, the hair, maybe producing acne. The sharp quality, when aggravated, can cause burning sharp pains in cramps, headaches. You may even experience some discomfort in the breast. You also may experience a sharp tongue, so being more irritated, maybe some intolerance, impatience. The hot quality will show up as overheating throughout the day, and particularly overnight. You may find you're throwing the bedclothes off you, and of course heated emotions as well. The light quality of aggravated, you may feel more lightheaded or dizzy. The acidic quality may manifest in acidic stomach, heartburn, or acid reflux during this phase of the cycle. The mobile quality can also be considered like the spreading quality. It can cause excess menstrual flow, skin irritations, rashes on the skin. You may feel the heat or heated emotions rising through your body, really feeling that heat overtaking you. And finally, the liquid quality can show up in loose stool or diarrhea, vomiting, or swelling in the body for Pitta. So let's look at the opposite qualities to help pacify Pitta during this phase of the cycle. So the opposite to the oily quality is dry. So the oily quality, as I mentioned, can show up in oily skin, hair, maybe acne. So you want to have less oily foods. So definitely avoiding fried foods and adding less oil to your food during this period. If you're someone to add extra olive oil or ghee to your food, just reducing that during this period, especially if you're noticing more oiliness in your body or more acne. The sharp quality, as I said, can show up in really sharp pain or sharp tongue. We want to bring in the dull quality, because also known as the smooth quality. So that means more bland foods, less pungent and spicy foods, and less intense flavors. So keeping the diet really simple during this phase of the cycle. The hot quality, again, can cause overheating and heated emotions. We want to bring in cool quality. So this could mean bringing in foods that have a cooling quality, Pitta, pacifying foods, and also including the bitter, sweet, and astringent taste, like leafy greens, aloe vera, coconut, asparagus, sweet fruits, mint, cardamom, fennel, cilantro, or coriander. These foods have a cooling quality to the body and will really help to pacify Pitta in this stage. Cooling down in your activities, right? Less intensity. You could do this through a slow flow yoga practice. Definitely no hot yoga. And also Shitali, cooling breath, is a great practice to calm Pitta during this time, especially if there's a tendency towards heated emotions. The light quality, as we said, can manifest in lightheadedness or dizziness. So we want to bring in the heavy quality to offset this. Heavy quality again includes grounding foods. Ideally, a vegetarian diet is great for Pitta. So lots of carbohydrates, providing that pacifying sweet taste, avoiding meat, definitely avoiding red meat during this phase. So Pitta is definitely pacified by a more vegetarian diet. Then the acidic quality, which can, as I said, can lead to acidic stomach, heartburn, or maybe even acid reflux. If you're experiencing that, you want to bring in more of the alkaline quality. So obviously avoiding acidic, sour foods and drinks. That would be things like caffeine, tomatoes, sour fruits, like citrus, sour berries, alcohol, vinegar, yogurt, cheese, fermented foods, and bringing in more alkaline foods, which are Pitta pacifying foods. Obviously, I can't go into all the foods in detail, but things that have more of a bitter taste, less intense flavors are ideal. If you do a consultation with me, you get a whole food list of pacifying foods, but thinking more towards bitter and sweet taste is ideal here. Now, the next quality that can become aggravated is the mobile quality. And like we said, that can increase the menstrual flow of aggravated, cause skin irritations, rashes, and can have that, if feeling of the heat rising through the body when you get irritated. So we want to bring in more of the static quality. So that means less intensity in day-to-day life, less competition, doing more calming activities during this phase of the cycle in particular, and participating in fun activities rather than activities that have a purpose or a competitive edge to them. The next quality could become aggravated is the liquid quality. And as I said, that can result in loose stool, diarrhea, vomiting, or swelling in the body. We want to bring in more of the dense quality, more dense foods with less oil and water. Half a teaspoon maximum of ground turmeric daily is really great for its astringent quality, meaning that it can dry up that excess moisture. It can also reduce inflammation and support the liver during this phase of the cycle, which is really working hard during this phase to metabolize the high hormone levels. So there you go. That's an insight into how the doshas cycle and influence our menstrual cycle and how aggravations can manifest in the doshas, and some general advice on how to pacify those doshas. So I hope that helps you. Of course, if you're noticing a mix of symptoms, or if you're feeling that the symptoms are very aggravated, it really is wise to get some professional advice. Our bodies are amazing, and really tuning into our menstrual cycle is a great opportunity to receive a monthly report on the status of our doshas. Catching these subtle signals or signs of aggravation early and making the appropriate changes to our food or lifestyle or mindfulness practices to pacify the dosha or doshas will prevent any long-term imbalances or any disease in the future. During the bleed phase of our cycle, it's important to rest and turn our attention inward so we can connect and tune into what our body is trying to tell us. This time should be seen as a rest and reset phase each month. And planning this quiet time is a really great idea. It's time to indulge in creative activities, journaling about any emotions rising, spending time in nature or gardening, spending time doing activities that really nourish and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. And having this monthly reset where you take some quiet time, you contemplate maybe what's happened in the previous month, what you need to digest, what do you want for the following month. It's a great monthly reset and something I really recommend that you pay attention to. And of course, the more we rest during our cycle, particularly during the bleed phase, the Vata phase, the more our body will appreciate it. If you would like some support around understanding Ayurveda, how it fits into your lifestyle, how to manage your imbalances or manage just your constitution and get tailored information to you, check out my online services. I offer online consultations, at-home cleanses tailored to you. And I also have an educational program which dives deep into the healing principle that I discussed here today of like increases like and opposites pacify. The online program is called the Daily Habits for Holistic Health program. It's a 28-day self-paced program. And in it, I cover how to structure your day to flow with the daily energy cycles or the circadian rhythms, really ensuring that your body maintains balance and tuning your day to the circadian rhythms. Make sure all the systems of your body maintain regularity and prevent any imbalances. I also talk about the mental gunas or qualities and how to maintain positive mental health. I talk about, as I mentioned, the foundations of Ayurvedic healing and becoming your own healer. And I talk about connecting to your true nature and your intuition to help guide you in living a positive and fulfilling life. If you're interested in any of my online services, just click on the link in the show notes to find out more or to book a service. And if you have any questions on my services before you book, you can book a free 15-minute Services Enquiry Call. We can hop on Zoom and have a chat, and I can answer any questions you'll have. I'll put all those links in the show notes, or you can visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this information was helpful to you. And if you think this information will be helpful to family or friends, please share it with them. If you haven't already subscribed or followed the podcast, please do so, and the new episodes will automatically download for you. And if you would like to rate and review the podcast, I would really appreciate that. You can do that wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can find me on social media under Elements Healing and Wellbeing on Facebook and Instagram. So come join me over there. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate your time. And until next time, take good care of yourself. Be well and bye for now. Slán go fóill.